Just stick with it. Be confident in your training. It's really going to prepare you for what's up ahead.
I guess take advantage of all the learning and growing opportunities as you can, because ROTC will give you a lot of those opportunities if you show up.
There's always going to be good and bad times. Come with a positive attitude to every single event, whether it be good or bad. I don't remember who said it, but you've made it through. Even though you're assigned somebody, I don't think that it should be limited to that. I think that we all have the opportunity as seniors and fours to pass on the guidance because they asked or just because you see them struggling. I think the idea behind it is great because it makes everybody feel more so obligated and or able to get their own knowledge out there.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? It's Captain Adabear with the Level Pack Podcast. Today, we will be interviewing our cadets from the senior trip to Normandy, France.
Hello, I am Cadet Bryson. I was battalion commander this semester, and I'm commissioning as an Army engineer.
Hello, I'm Cadet Gallegos. I am a psychology major, and I'm commissioning at the end of this year.
I am Cadet King. I was S3 and I'm also a psychology major.
I'm Cadet Matthews. I'm a senior in mechanical engineering and I held the master gunner position this year.
Awesome. Well, hey, thanks guys for being on the podcast. Starting from where you guys came from, like, how'd you find Army ROTC?
Originally joined the National Guard. New Mexico decided to use it for school. When I got here, I met Mr. Savini, who was a recruiter, and I was very interested in the positions.
Okay.
It was pretty similar for me. I was in the Guard, and then my recruiter that recruited me into the Guard convinced me to go through the ROTC.
I was green to gold. I was active duty for 4 years prior, heard the program and wanted to come back to home state. And so that's why I'm here.
For me, when I was in middle school, I ran out of electives and the only one that they had was an ROTC type thing. I ended up really liking it, so I did it in high school, and then in high school I played for the national scholarship and got it, so I continued ROTC in college.
Cool. Are you guys all from New Mexico?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Not born, but I grew up here.
Okay. King, you went and you enlisted first, then went green to gold. Why decide to come back to UNM?
Close to home. I grew up here, so friends, I guess familiarity, and I kind of knew of the UNM, I guess, ROTC program just from communicating with Mr. Dimmer, who used to work there. So it was cool. He helped me out on my first application for green to gold. And then come my second application after he gave me like the advice that I needed and like kind of all the pointers for what I needed to improve on. So it was an easy choice.
Okay. That is cool. Is it because like, especially with choosing schools, there's tons of schools to go to. Being close to home, is there any financial stuff that UNM was able to provide differently than other schools?
Since since this is my home station, and so for anybody who's like a resident, they have the opportunity scholarship where they just pay for your school. And I was not trying to use my GI Bill. I was trying to save that for like my kids later on in my life. So I didn't want to use GI Bill and I didn't want to pay out of pocket. So UNM there was just countless things that just made it more of like the appropriate choice.
And Bryson, you guys joined the National Guard first. Why decide to then go ROTC from there? Like, is there something in the National Guard that helped you become an officer?
Originally, my plan was just to join the National Guard for the GI Bill, but once I found ROTC, I learned I can progress my, I guess, future. So that's why I really wanted to join. Just to progress in the National Guard as a higher rank.
For me, I had never actually went to a unit. I just went through basic training, and then that's when my recruiter reached out to me, and I just saw so many more opportunities through ROTC than just the National Guard.
Okay. And then Matthews, you joined the JROTC to take that class. Is that what really helped you get an understanding of, I could see myself doing this more? Or?
I would say so. I think it did a pretty good job. Of course, high school and middle school are quite different, but they have the same general principles of the military that they teach you. It gives you a sense of duty, routine, and that you still have instructors that have been in the military for a long time. They're very good mentors, and that's what really got to me is mostly the mentors that I had in those classes.
Yes. Coming here, your first year, even for you, King, because, coming from green to gold, Is there something that was really awesome about ROTC that made you keep going, or did you always just want to become an officer?
I would say the opportunities they offered, like the field training exercises were really fun. The scholarships they gave really helped me out, and just along the lines of different opportunities to gain.
Pretty much the same thing for me. Really saw a lot of more career progression for what I wanted to do through being an officer rather than enlisted.
Okay.
For me, when I first enlisted, I had the idea of trying to go to the military academy, West Point, and I actually found a buddy when I was going through basic training whose dad was a recruiter for the Naval Academy, and so in part knew a bunch of the people from West Point. But there's an age limit, so I said that was a dying dream and just kept on my career. And then I found out later on through financial programs and programs that they offer at bases and stuff like that. Like each base has like a certain program. There's like 4 options, but I chose green to gold because it seemed the best. You stay active duty, you get paid, and you just have to finish up 2 years of school. So it was a smooth transition. I like the idea of more field training exercises that kind of get you into like the nitty gritty of how to be a platoon leader. And then also the progression of, it was an easy transition at first because I started out as like an NCO position when I got here to the program. So it was just easy to just continue on mission. And then later on, it was nice in the 4 year, in our year now, to transition over to an officer and see the S shops and everything like that. So
For me, when I first joined the program, I wasn't really sure where I wanted to go with it, but I did get a lot of support from both cadets with me. A lot of the MS4s when I was a freshman were really helpful. And then cadre with things going on in my external life. They gave me a lot of opportunities, helped me with like my finances and stuff like that. And that kind of kept encouraging me to want to help mentor the freshmen when I'm a senior, and then later when I'm an officer, mentor people in my platoon.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Talking a little bit more about special opportunities here in New Mexico, is there anything cool about the ROTC program you guys can participate in other than just the ROTC classes or, the leadership lab or the FTXs?
I mean, there's a lot of competitions you can join. There's like Army Timaler in DC and then Ranger Challenge, and a lot of there's Baton Memorial Death March that is more specific to New Mexico.
It was a cool opportunity that happened this year or last year that was newly introduced to UNM ROTC, which was being able to participate in the Northern Warfare Challenge, coming from a desert that's super warm and has nothing to do with real cold temperatures. It was cool to experience the stark difference in the training needed and the knowledge needed to do cold weather training in comparison. So that
I
was an
gotcha.
opportunity.
Could you talk a little bit more about what Northern Warfare Challenge was?
Yes, from what I remember, it was a 2 or 3 day event. The first day was applicable training, knowing your different classes for cold weather gear, knowing how to wrap somebody up in what's called a SCEDCO, the sled exfil for patients and stuff like that, how to properly wrap them so they won't get hypothermia and so they won't be injured in movement. And then also to each station was at least like a mile or 2 miles in rucking. And then the next day was a 12-mile ruck. I heard years prior there was a lot of snow. For our year, it wasn't a lot of snow, but we used moose tracks, so it helped us not slip on the slushy and icy terrain. But it was a good experience. There was a lot of hills. It was definitely a different type of 12-miler, especially for the ones that whenever you go to like actual cadet summer camp training. So
I gotcha. So, as far as the snow, how deep was it? Because, I mean, you're up there in Wisconsin, so, is it up to your, hip or what?
like I said, years prior was probably a lot more from what we heard from the people that were staying in the same tent as us. But for us, it was at some parts it was maybe ankle shin deep from what I remember. But I think for the majority of it, it was probably just surrounding the boot. So it wasn't anything crazy. It was just the harshness of the air being so cold and rigid. But other than that, there wasn't too much of a difference besides kind of trying to make sure you dress warm enough to where you could still ruck and get hot throughout the training. So
Yeah. And then, because you were there too, right, Bryson? A question for both of you. What do you guys remember most about that training, like benefit-wise, as far as good or bad, and something you took with you for the rest of your Army career?
I think for me, it was learning how to train for something that we were not used to. Because as King mentioned, like, we were from New Mexico, we're not used to that much snow. So we had to really, like, think outside of the box to be able to train for that competition in New Mexico.
Yeah, for me, everybody made fun of me for it, but I definitely really enjoyed learning about like clouds and the weather because that was a big what we saw was like would have been a big proponent. Once we got there, it wasn't as big as I made myself believe it was. So I learned a lot about how to tell what predictors might cause like certain things. So I think that was a good experience for myself.
Cool. Any other experiences you guys remember? Maybe not from Northern Warfare, but what other things do we offer as a battalion? I think we touched on it a little bit. Baton Death March. Did you guys, or Gallegos, Matthews, did you guys ever do that?
No,
Okay.
I have done that. I did it 2 or 3 out of my 4 years here, both light and heavy. And that was a super good experience. When you do it on a team, it definitely teaches you how to interact with others when you are not in the best headspace and still be able to like take care of your battle buddies and make sure they're doing good. And then doing it heavy and by yourself is also its own mental battle for sure, as long with a physical battle. But it's a super great opportunity for the cadets to see something a little bigger. It's such a big event with so many military members attending, and it's for such a good reason that we do it in remembrance of Baton. It gives you a lot of historical opportunities to learn things and really just to honor people that have fallen during some of our tough times. So it's a great opportunity.
Yeah, definitely. You mentioned light and heavy, but what is that and what is the competition?
Right. So a Baton Memorial Death March is a ruck march through White Sands Missile Range. It's pretty dang hot there. Light talks about you're going to be in your OCPs and boots and then a flick, but you don't have too much like weight. That's why they call it light. And then for heavy, it is a minimum of a 35-pound ruck along with your full OCPs as well.
Gotcha. No, that sounds like a crazy event. But what helps you get through, like, because you've done the full marathon, right? Like, what helped you get through that?
I think it's a little different for everyone, but for me personally, firstly, there's a lot of preparation. Even in ROTC, we all go on rucks as groups together and make sure we get physically prepared. And then it's really just a mental game of I can keep walking. People were forced to do this, and now I have the opportunity to do it to honor them. So, for the people that were forced to do it, I shouldn't give up just because I don't want to do it. I don't know if Bryson had maybe a different experience or tactic.
For me, I think it was pretty similar, but for most of it, I was on a team, so I could like talk to people, and that helped a lot. And then for the last one, it was just a mental game because I was by myself, and I would just, I would make a little competition with myself and try and pass one person at a time. But that's pretty much it.
Cool. No, I can only imagine going through that. A team, it makes sense. Yeah, you're talking with your friends and stuff like that. But when you're alone, it's when there's other people around you, which is fun. I think that's the best part about races and things like that is that you have a big crowd that you're all doing the same thing. But yeah. But Gallegos, did you ever do like color guard or anything like that while you were in ROTC?
I was in the SMP program, so the cool thing we would do is we do a lot of recruiting for our drill days. So we'd go to different high schools or JROTC events and also different events across New Mexico. One was, I forgot what it is called, but it's where they cut open a pig and basically make it right then and there. And we got to set up a booth and do a recruiting event, eat good food there, and meet all the locals. So it's really cool, the different places you go across New Mexico.
Was it Matanza?
The Matanza, yes, the Matanza.
Yeah, I heard that one's like humongous. Like, isn't there like tons? Like, it's not just one.
No, there's not
just.
There's
like
there was around like a different, like probably like hundreds of different booths, food, and it was like really cool to try. One of them was like a green chili pancake you got to try with like pork and stuff. It's really interesting.
That's pretty awesome. We'll have to look into doing something there again.
Yes, sir.
Something when I came to Albuquerque that was amazing was Balloon Fiesta, which is awesome. Did anybody for us, we work that event, right?
Yes, sir.
And what do we like usually do, I guess?
When we work the events, both times I did it, I was helping people unload the buses. So when the buses would arrive from the different malls. I would just help people get in line and get ready for the Balloon Fiesta.
Okay. Did anybody else work it or anything like that?
Yeah, I worked it. For me, I don't know whether it was just the demeanor. My first time doing it, they just gave me a vest and told me to direct traffic. I didn't know if I had to have qualifications, but they gave me one of those flashlight wands, and that was pretty much what I did. I sat there for, I think they were 4 to 8 hour shifts. I don't remember, but I just sat there directing the buses and just telling them when to go, telling them when to stop, and telling them like where to park so then it could easily unload everybody and stuff.
The awesome thing about Balloon Fiesta is like tons and tons of balloons being released and stuff like that. When you work it, are you there? You're able to see everything?
Yeah, after your shift's over, there's like at least an hour ish in between to where you can actually just go around. They'll give you time to hit the stalls up to look at like each one of the hot air balloons while they're either getting ready to take off and they're doing like their little picturesque thing. And then you have to obviously come back to work. But then, I mean, depending on which time you go, you can kind of just, after your shift, you could just sit there and see it for free. So I think that was a cool opportunity. So
Cool. Shifting to more of experiences at UNM, who mentored you the most or had the biggest impact on you becoming an officer?
I would like to say he's retired now, but Mr. Savini, he's the one that pushed me to join, and he's the one that guided me through my MS1 and 2 year. And yeah, he's the one that motivated me the most.
How so? Just like keeping in touch with you?
Yeah, he would
Like-
always be there for any questions, any life questions, stories. If I was feeling down about a class or something, he would always just talk to me and hang out with me. Stuff along those lines.
Cool.
I still sometimes text Mr. Dimmer. He used to work here, and he was a really good mentor for me. And he even sometimes now he'll answer some questions for me.
This may be a little broad, but last year when we were threes, I feel like the MS4 class as a whole that year did a great job at preparing us for camp, for taking care of us. We used to have our fun game nights. They were super good with just the well-being of the battalion. And for me personally, a lot of mentorship with one of the cadets had like a gym thing in the morning, so we could go to Johnson Gym before it opened and work out. That was super awesome. A couple of the other cadets helped prepare me on some of my sticks lanes really well. They took so much extra time to come into the rec and make sure I was prepared. So that whole class did a really good job.
Cool.
shout out Trent. That's all I have. Yeah,
You don't have any mentors that helps you?
I think
Nobody?
it would be really like most of the cadre, yeah. Most of the cadets, they'd help me out here and there, but it was kind of weird to like call any of them mentors just because I'm older than them and stuff like that. I definitely got like a lot of guidance from them and help when I asked. Like that's what I said, like shout out Trent. He was one of the fours. He did have the game night, but the game night was paired with like tactics and stuff. So that was pretty nice. I got to ask my questions there because I was in aviation. So doing like battle drills and everything like that was not a thing. If you're talking about flight formations, yeah, cool. I know like a little bit or enough to be a crew chief, but battle formations, team wedge, like that was stuff that was like a foreign language to me. So that was super nice. I guess if I did choose a mentor, it was Captain Locke, or maybe I think it's Major Locke now. I don't know. He was great. He would answer all your questions. He would stay after. He was definitely somebody that I would go to and feel comfortable asking even the dumbest questions if I had him, just because he was willing to not only make fun of you, but also genuinely give you an answer and help you with your concerns and stuff like that. So he was a good guy.
No, that's awesome. A lot goes into this job and a lot you need to learn because obviously, we don't teach the tactics or whatnot or it's not as emphasized when you're flying helicopters or things like that. So yeah, I totally understand. You guys do have a mentorship program here. Now that you guys are seniors, what has been the funnest part about that? And what has been like one of the least, like something we can improve on?
The funnest part for me has been being able to see where the MS1s and 2s want to go with their careers or like their future plans. Because I remember when I first joined, I had like an idea of what I want to do and it always changes. But just seeing where they want to go in the very beginning is really cool to see.
I'd kind of agree with the Gallegos. There's a lot of opportunity to see where they want to go and then also just help them get there from our own experiences and then also help them when things change because, sometimes you have to change your major or you get injured, stuff like that. it's a good thing to help prepare them for.
I remember when I was a 1 and a 2, I had a lot of questions, and so I loved having a mentor for that. And so I like to just be there to answer questions for my mentors.
I like the idea of the mentor program. I think it's more a comfortability for the 1s and 2s to kind of like have somebody that they know they can go to. And then I think it's just an incentive for all of the seniors and or juniors to kind of like, even though you're assigned somebody, I don't think that it should be limited to that. I think that we all have the opportunity as seniors and 4s to pass on the guidance, whether it be because they asked or just because you see them struggling. I think the idea behind it is great because it makes everybody feel more so obligated and or able to get their own knowledge out there, but then just the opportunities are endless. Like you get to see so much growth from people, and you may or may not have helped them, but at least you tried. So I think that's a cool thing.
Definitely. More on that. When we have new students who come into college and things like that, it's not set in stone. Oh, this is how your day's going to work. This is what you need to do to be successful. You also need to go work out or watch what you're eating so you're taking care of yourself and being healthy, stuff like that. What has been the hardest thing to adjust to while in college, whether that be academics, nutrition, working out, things like that?
I would say it would be planning out your days because you have classes, obviously, but trying to get your schoolwork fit in there, your gym time in there, trying to fit food in there is just really difficult to like have a stable plan throughout the days.
I think not speaking from experience, just because I didn't have to work and or balance work and school, but you can definitely see from your peers and stuff like that the commitment it takes to truly want to be in the program and play your part while also balancing school and work. Because I mean, for the most part, yeah, school may be free if you get the scholarships, but then you have other things that you need to worry about, or they have other things that they need to worry about. So I'd say that it's a big juggling game whenever you get to college, and for the freshmen and even still towards the seniors, like you start to have to decide what's most important to you and kind of put more time into that. So it's definitely a big juggling game of figuring out what works best for you.
I would agree. For me, it was definitely the balancing. Oh, I have to go to work, but then I also have class, and then the class comes with homework, and then I also have to eat, and then at some point I have to participate in ROTC. And it's like, how much time do I really have, and where do my priorities lie? Even had to actually, one of my years, reach out to Cadre, and they gave me a really cool priorities matrix to help me kind of figure out where I should be investing my time.
For me, it was, especially when I was working more, prioritizing school versus ROTC versus work and figuring out how to manage my schedule better.
Okay, cool. From an engineering background, as an engineering student, Matthews, super like strenuous discipline as far as engineering. What are some tips and tricks for engineers coming to college this year to help them out, especially from our ROTC unit?
So for that, my first thing that I would want to tell people is it can be done. It is kind of difficult, but my advice is block out your days, figure out what you have to do, when you have to do it, and you truly just can't be lazy, especially for the first and second years. Usually you take a lot of what they call weed out classes. So they're usually pretty heavy workload, not necessarily terribly applicable to your major, but applicable enough. And usually that's what gets a lot of students is they think that that's what their entire college experience is going to be, is just working on these classes that aren't even talking about what they really care about. So once you get past those, it's kind of perfect because I feel like a lot of your really hard classes, those weed out classes, come in your first and definitely your second year. And if you're doing that with ROTC, your first and your second year are a little bit lighter. And then when it comes to kind of your junior year, I found, at least for my 4.5-year plan, that I was able to take easier engineering classes and focus more time into the program. And it's definitely one of those things where you have to reach out to cadre, communicate with them. And then also the ROTC advisor. She is a super wonderful resource. She will help you figure out what classes you have to take when and whether or not you can push off those harder classes, especially if you're a junior. If you're getting ready to do it at camp, that should be your priority if you can make it a priority.
Definitely. You had mentioned camp. Coming back from camp, what has been the most influential part of being an MS, and what have you learned the most? Because now you guys are on staff, most of you. Some of you, especially what we did last semester, was try out the RO or the black gold
The Ranger
Marine
Challenge.
platoon. Yeah, Ranger Challenge teams.
I think as a 4, it's nice to be able to prioritize our roles in ROTC for the 1 through 3s who are like training for camp, because we've already been through camp and we have a little bit more experience and can tell them what to expect and how to work there.
As a 4, it was really cool seeing like the background of how, because you just, as a 1 through 3, you usually just show up and everything's already planned out, so you just do what you're told, but actually being the ones to know what you have to work for and then planning that is really interesting.
I think this year for the 3s and the 4s was a little bit more difficult come the second half, just because there was so much change going on for camp and for not only their priorities of work, but also their like understanding of the point system and what they have to prioritize as something that they need to learn or maybe even unlearn, depending on, I guess, what they were told prior. So I think that was a good shift, and it was cool to see how many people were either it was kind of a testament to not only our ability to roll with the punches, but also the junior class, just because, I mean, when you get taught for your first 3 years what you should expect relatively at camp, and then it just gets shifted, it's nice to see how many can handle the pressure and also how many are willing to continue on mission while also still striving for that excellence. So that was a cool thing.
I agree. I don't have much to add. I think that the ability to really see how quickly things can change, because that'll happen in the Army, that'll happen in life, and then just adapt and help others adapt was a pretty cool aspect of this year that's kind of unique.
Cool, yeah, especially because you guys are looking sort of top down of the battalion. You get to understand, well, how do you actually train people to, get something done, and how do you also train them to understand for the future, so you're not just walk away and they don't retain anything that you told them. I think an interesting part of the MS4 curriculum is that you guys did get the opportunity to plan out a staff ride. Could you guys talk a little bit about what was it like to decide where you were going to go and how you decided to go there?
First thing is it was part of the curriculum, so everybody got kind of dished out different ideas, and there was this collective thought that everybody had. And I know that our cadre knew that we had a collective thought, that we wanted to prioritize one and have throwaway on the other. But then it's always that advice. It's like, hey, if it doesn't work out, are you just not going to have a plan for something else? So I think we still kind of, did that. We gave options that had full plans, but.
Can you talk a little bit about more like, okay, you said options, different ideas. What are the different ideas? Like, where were you going to go for this thing?
Everybody was given, I think it was a certain
time period.
Uh-huh. And so, or they were given, a certain location. Like, some had Oconus or overseas for those non-military-esque. And then some were given specific time periods. And so the idea was just to find something that either prior classes haven't done, and then also make it not only like a good experience to where we're traveling as a senior class and getting to see a different part of maybe the world or the United States, but also the actual stepping into the realm of what that specific battle or war experience was. So not only researching this information and planning it so then we know where we're going or what we're going to do, but also getting a better understanding of how it actually played out by looking at the terrain and seeing how that might have affected, and then being put in the shoes of our predecessors and stuff like that to see how they might have seen it or what we might have done differently. There's always that give and take when it comes to looking at history and trying to either learn from it or grow from it. So it's a cool opportunity.
Okay. When we talk about the final options that were on the table, what did you guys look at?
I remember one being Yellowstone. There was France, and I can't remember the other two.
It was Boston.
Oh, one was Boston.
We got overexcited and also chose Canada as another out-of-country option.
Canada.
Oh, wait, why specifically Canada? Is there a battle?
There was.
There was, I don't
but
Okay.
remember the
yeah, we weren't a
battle.
part of that group. We
Oh, okay.
recall
I
that
get it.
one.
I get it. Okay. So in the end, did you guys all have to present the idea to each other?
Yes, we presented to each other and the cadre, and then we would have to make sure that it was actually like a feasible plan, profit wise, time wise, and along those lines. And
Okay.
then we voted on our favorite from there.
And what was your favorite?
Our favorite was going to France.
I would imagine so. So talking about that, what made France out of all the other ones more important to go to?
I think everyone just wanted to see World War II was the topic, and that was like the biggest war that we were covering. Another part was obviously seeing the beaches of Normandy and obviously Paris.
Yeah, definitely. Anybody else want to share anything?
Probably I don't want to say once in a lifetime opportunity, but it's going to be a little bit more restricted for some people. You know, it might be harder to actually get the time to do it and go actually see such a specific event and its location and actually do research on it. So I think it was the availability and, you know, who doesn't want to go to Normandy? It's a good opportunity.
Flying into France from, you guys obviously took off from Albuquerque, but what was that experience like going Oconus?
At first, we flew from Albuquerque to
LAX.
LAX, so that was nothing different. Just getting prepared from actually seeing my first international flight. They're huge. Seeing the plane arrive at LAX, it's a different experience. And then seeing the inside, I didn't know it could fit that many people inside. I thought it would be more comfortable, but we're let down there unless you're first class. Yeah, it was a little nerve-wracking, but it was fun overall.
Cool.
It was my second time, or at least like third or fourth time going overseas. So flying in something like that, it was different, especially because usually it's charted by the military, so it's only military people on there, is what I was used to. Yeah, the room was awful because I mean, whenever you fly with like other like a unit and stuff like that overseas, from my experience, there was a little bit more room. Like I could get up and go find like 4 seats to lay across by myself. I mean, they don't advise this. I don't think it's legal, but yeah, I was definitely a little less comfortable, especially on the flight there. I think the flight back was a little bit better because we all had kind of a general understanding of not to bring a bunch of stuff to like stuff everywhere or to throw overhead. So that was a definite eye opener.
One thing that really helped is our PMS like gave us a schedule to eat and sleep, and that really helped with the time change so that when we got there we weren't like overly exhausted or tired.
Nice. And then itinerary wise, so you guys fly in that day. What was the itinerary from then on? How many days were you guys there?
Well, we were there for a week total. I believe it was 2 days flying and
4 or 5 days in between.
3 days flying and then 4 days actually doing stuff. So when we arrived, our first day was just getting into our Airbnb, getting situated, getting the rental vans, and then from there we would spend 2 more days in Normandy and then a day in Paris.
Okay, cool. Talk through, I guess, your first days there. What was it like?
It was weird seeing the different buildings. A lot of them were old brick or just looked very different from what we're used to seeing here. I know New Mexico is known for having its unique buildings, but it's just like something you've never seen before. That was a little bit of a culture shock.
Roads are very much so smaller in Europe. I don't think it was definitely different scenery. It was definitely like the architect was a lot more, I'd say, is a little older and stuff like that, especially compared to the stucco that's here. And the coloration, obviously, because I mean, everything here is kind of like what kind of, like a brown or a tan. There was a little more variety in that over in France. So.
Definitely. As far as going to the beaches, like, how did you guys' staff ride begin?
So we began at the 82nd Memorial. Do you guys remember the bridge name? There was a popular bridge where the 82nd were supposed to land, and we began the staff ride with that, and then moved our way inland towards the beaches, and then we ended with the 2 major beaches we covered, which were Omaha and Utah.
Okay. Did you guys stop at Saint Marie Elise?
Oh, we did.
Okay. Was that your first stop? How did you guys?
I believe that was our second stop.
Second stop?
Yes.
Okay, cool. And then how did you guys break it up? as far as when you do a staff ride?
It was usually like one or two of the cadets covering the topics. Like with the 82nd, two people would cover what their job was, why it's important, and then how it impacted the war. And then from there, we moved to St. Eric Lease, and then that was just like adding on to the 82nd. Then we moved towards the beaches, and then different people had different parts of the beaches to cover. I know Point du Hoc, one person covered Point du Hoc. So from there, we just went across the beaches and would break it up like that.
Talking and walking through a battlefield like that, what was your guys's, especially seeing it for the first time, what was your guys' experience?
But there was a lot of moving parts. So we all had a topic to cover, which was a lot on its own, but just seeing what else was going on at the same time or earlier, or it was just a lot of different pieces that had to come together for it to be a good plan.
It was really cool how we were able to like stand and move in those exact places that the war was. And then we could like really visualize as we were explaining what was happening.
To add to what Bryson said too, it was very interesting to see some of the land features that made some of the events that happened on D-Day pretty incredible. You know, going up crazy hills from landing on a beach. Some of that was really wild to actually see. It's one thing to see it versus like just read about it. So when we would explain stuff like that, it was really cool to actually get a better understanding of some of the crazy things that happened.
Yeah, the perspective on especially like the beachfronts on Utah and Omaha, just and it was pointed out that where the water was at the time that we were there wasn't even as far out as it was, because I think it was low tide at the time that they landed. And so it was just the expanse that they had to cross with no coverage. I mean, we had to go over what made the whole, I guess, beachfront like attack almost fail, which was because there was a giant storm that was going on. And then seeing like the necessity of those tanks that got like swept away and like didn't actually make it to shore, how much more difficult I guess it would have made it. Then also the cool perspective that we did on the staff ride is we had like two people that were coming from the perspective of the Germans setting up their obstacles and everything like that. And then just seeing how much, or trying to visualize it on the actual beachfront and seeing like I could definitely see how every one of like the commanders or generals that were thinking that it was going to fail would think that, just because of the constant like things that fell through that were supposed to help like push us forward, but then they just fell through. And then you had the ingenuity and the drive from each one of like the different forces that would scale the sides like of the cliffs that you get to see out there. It was definitely, you have to take a step back and kind of actually grasp the whole concept of large scale war when it comes to seeing it face to face and not only just reading it. So that was definitely an eye opener for I think all of us.
Definitely. And then can you go through what you guys covered, like what your guys' roles were with the whole staff ride?
I went over Utah Beach. So I went over the success of that beach, because that was actually one of the more successful beaches that was conducted that day.
I was General Rommel, and me and Margaret kind of were the two Germans that were able to give the German perspective.
What specifically, when you talk the German perspective, I mean, what were they thinking back then?
I mean, a huge part of it was the preparation for D-Day and just like so many obstacles. One thing that really stood out to me is like how many they put out compared to how many they wanted to. Like they only got like a tenth of what they were really like aiming towards.
Because from what I understand, there was a lot of trying to deceive the German forces of where we were going to come from. Is that a part of why there weren't as many?
Yes, that is a big part, because we didn't expect, like the Germans didn't expect them to come where they did. So that's not where a lot of the obstacles were centered.
Another issue too that we found when we were talking about it was higher level communication. So I was Runstead, and between mine and Bryson's, they did not communicate very well. They actually had very different ideas about where troops should be, what should happen when, and because of a breakdown of communication, a pretty significant one, there were a lot of things that fell through as far as getting troops to where they wanted them, like Bryson mentioned.
I was Lieutenant General Omar, and mine was it wasn't as up front as like everybody else's. Mine was kind of like the logistics. I don't remember what ship I was on, but or my character was on that, or my guy, not character, they're real people. His was just kind of like a logistical standpoint, making sure that everything like went the way it was supposed to, and obviously it didn't. So there was like that hard thing of like trying to make sure that Point to Hawk actually happened, because I was a big proponent that everybody was going to meet, and making sure that Utah Beach went successful, and it did. And then Omaha Beach, which was like the bloodiest, and like it was, you can almost feel the stress that was going on, like when you read through it and you see all the things that just didn't happen into place or didn't fall into place that should have, like the storm and everything like that just wasn't expected. There was just so many like different obstacles, and like I don't remember what they were called, but they were like posts that had like wires on them where there was mines set on them, and because of the low tide, you can actually see them, but I mean, that doesn't stop where you have to land and everything like that. So there was a lot of complications, and it definitely takes a lot of logistical communication, especially between each one of like the other commanding like proponents in it. Cause it's the guy that I was studying, he was part of it, and like he had to make sure everything was like going correctly, but he wasn't actually like down on the ground. So it's probably a lot more stressful to hear what's going wrong than actually see what's going wrong. And like,
is that the biggest thing for like a lieutenant general on a ship, is that you're trying to visualize it, but you only have a radio basically to communicate by?
yeah, most definitely. I would think that would probably be the most stressful. But the guy that I was researching, it was talked about how he was super level headed and calm. So you could only, wonder and think like actually what his true emotions were. I would assume that if it was a part of his character, he would definitely keep the part of staying more calm and reserved during it, but there would be a sense of urgency, especially when you're calling Utah, who was your guy again?
Theodore was on the ground.
Yeah, they're calling like the people at Utah and being like, oh, cool, it's going right, it's going good. And then calling Omaha and they're like, it's hitting the fan, like it's not going as planned. We don't have any of the tanks to like give that kind of like that cover and stuff like that. So it was, I would assume it's very vital and important, because you need to know what actually has happened and what your next steps will be if it either doesn't happen or doesn't fall through. And I guess like everything that goes into planning and stuff. So,
okay. Was there a decisive factor with the battle, for these beaches that, sent it over, that we definitely knew that we had won, like either a decision point or, a critical point?
Once they were able to make the hills or hit the hill, and get off the beach was the turning point for us. I know Omaha, they actually didn't have faith in Omaha, and because it was like 3 hours in and they were still not even near the hill. But for Utah, they were able to claim Utah in like about an hour and a half. So it was really successful there.
Nice. And then talking about, where did you go from there at the beaches? Did you guys spend the whole day there, or you guys were going from beach to beach? And then where did you guys go from there?
We would usually work our way inward and finish at a beach for a day. So
Okay.
we would start at like I know the beach day we went over to the cemetery. Do you remember the name of it? The World War II cemetery. And
Okay.
then from there we went to Omaha. But I know like people's motivation was really low that day. So we didn't spend a whole lot, because we actually got to see like the impact of like those are actually like human lives lost on that beach. So I know we only spent probably like maybe an hour at Omaha Beach before we because the Airbnb was a couple hours away. So
Okay.
it was like a couple hours just to get there and then a couple hours to get back. So we didn't have a whole lot of time. So then we went to like souvenir shops on the way back and then to eat, and then we made our way back.
Okay, cool. After that block, after doing pretty much the majority of the staff ride, what else did you guys go see while you were out there?
We went to Paris, was the kind of like the last day where we actually get to no staff rides, but it was mainly just actually seeing Paris.
Okay.
So that was really fun.
Did you guys break up into groups, or what did you guys do?
No, we stayed as one group, and we had a whole itinerary for that day. We mainly just went to a lot of the biggest tourist destinations and ended with the boat on the water, which was really fun.
Cool. What do you guys remember about like French food or whatever?
It's very small, and
Okay.
Doesn't have like a huge amount of flavor because they don't use a lot of like preservatives or things along those lines. But it was really good. And it was also really healthy. So,
I really liked their pastries.
There were a
yes.
lot of really good pastries.
Nice, nice. Looking back on it, because you guys are back here now, what was the most memorable thing about the trip?
For me, it would have to be seeing the Eiffel Tower. You always see it in movies and as a kid, so actually seeing how big it is in person, it was pretty shocking.
We also went to the Palace of Versailles, and that was really cool for me. I had no idea how big it was and how big the gardens were. I think we were there for like 2 hours just walking around.
Yeah, I definitely enjoyed the Palace of Versailles. The gardens are huge, and they have a little area where you can rent a paddle boat, and that was cool. I've never learned how to do that row. I've done like the rowing machine, but like to actually row is way different, and you have to actually think about like the distribution of like weight because you want the heaviest people to be like on the backside, so then you have some easy way to cut through the water. There was also, I did like the Eiffel Tower as well. It wasn't all about the rowing, so.
For me, I actually just really liked the ability to be with pretty much the entire MS4 class and experience a bunch of new things, a bunch of things that none of us have ever seen. We all worked together in a lot of different ways, whether it was we were doing the staff ride and, we kind of paired up to give discussions about what was happening, or even just like kind of like the family aspect. We would go back to the Airbnb, we'd all eat dinner together. We even baked a cake for Lieutenant Colonel as a class. So it was just the ability to do like so many things as a class kind of before we all disperse.
Yeah, that's awesome. Sort of talking about that, you guys are like a week and some change away from commissioning. Is there anything you'd like to tell the cadets coming in this semester about your journey?
Just stick with it and be confident in your training. It's really going to prepare you for what's up ahead.
I guess take advantage of all the learning and growing opportunities as you can, because ROTC will give you a lot of those opportunities if you show up and if you try your best at what you do.
There's always going to be good and bad times. Come with a positive attitude to every single event, whether it be good or bad. You're going to get through it. I don't remember who said it, but you've made it through 100% of your worst days. So it's not like it's going to be forever. Just be happy that you're there and you have an opportunity to do something that's bigger than yourself.
I'd say use your resources too. You can lean on your battle buddies for help and support. You have school resources. UNM has a bunch of awesome resources. ROTC has resources. If you're needing help, needing support, you can find it.
We wish you the best, future lieutenants, a few days now.